There will not just be 4 or 5 Starship launches in 2024, as we predicted in previous episodes, but up to 9 launches. This is insane. But what's more notable is that SpaceX and Elon Musk have not even mentioned this, but it was declared by the FAA, the agency with the authority to decide to allow SpaceX to launch their rockets. This unexpected development not only showcases SpaceX's potential to achieve its goal of 9 launches with a success rate of up to 98%, but also highlights the progress that the FAA's made in licensing upcoming launches. So, how did SpaceX prepare for these 9 launches? And what can the FAA do to meet the growing demand for those Starship launches? How did Elon react? Let's find out in today's episode of Alpha Tech. The Starship is the most powerful and largest spacecraft ever built, and ultimately, it'll be responsible for transporting humans from Earth to Mars, according to SpaceX's project goals. However, SpaceX still has a long way to go to get the Starship to that point. This week, Kevin Coleman, the administrator for the commercial space transportation at the Federal Aviation Administration, stated during a press availability that the agency is actively collaborating with the company to streamline the licensing process for the Starship launch. They're looking at a pretty aggressive launch schedule this year, he said. They're looking at, I believe, at least 9 launches this year. That's a lot of launches if you're doing modifications and doing them one by one. That's a lot of work. We've been talking to SpaceX constantly around the clock, coming together and trying to figure out how to do this. We're invested with the company, and so we'll work with them to get them going as soon as they can. This information has been swiftly confirmed by the esteemed CEO, Elon Musk. Building a city on Mars will take many launches. Indeed, with multiple launches per year, Elon will increasingly advance toward his grand ambitions, undoubtedly requiring the approvals of the FAA. Approximately 5 years ago, SpaceX made the decision to launch an attempt to land its Starship vehicle in Texas. However, before proceeding, the company was required to undergo an extensive environmental review of the launch site. As part of this regulatory process, the FAA conducted a final program environmental assessment, which was completed in June 2022. Subsequent to this review, SpaceX was granted approval to conduct up to 5 Starship launches annually from its South Texas facility. But SpaceX wants that to change. Recently, an FAA official has confirmed that SpaceX is currently seeking a modification to this initial 5 launch limit. This modification request aims to accommodate a higher flight rate for the Starship vehicle up to 9 launches a year. This is entirely feasible, to be honest. Even though Starship's third launch isn't slated to happen until mid-March, if SpaceX successfully combines it with their hardware always being ready, they could still ensure an average of 1 launch per month through the end of 2024. As Elon Musk recently revealed, Flight 4 hardware is almost ready, indicating readiness at any time within their rocket production mechanism. In general, the only factor that could potentially impact the launch schedule of Starship is the environmental investigations being conducted by the FAA. It's been 3 months since Starship's second launch on November 18th, compared to the previous FAA investigation, which took 7 months after the first Starship launch on April 20th. This shows that the FAA's investigation time seems to be gradually faster than before if they're now on time to approve the license in mid-March for SpaceX. Do you think the FAA has been working harder and faster? Let us know. I'm not sure about that, but most of the speediness comes from SpaceX's efforts to change and improve more. With its first launch in April, Starship exploded in midair, causing significant damage to the launch site near Boca Chica Beach and environmental concerns by scattering large chunks of concrete and dust into the surrounding wetlands. This shows a lengthy investigation period, which was understandable. However, subsequent significant changes and improvements in SpaceX's technology followed. The company's second launch in November was more successful as the booster stage. Super Heavy had a mostly nominal flight, and the upper stage of Starship attempted to separate from the booster before encountering an anomaly and being lost. This time, there was no damage on the ground. As a result, the FAA officials' timelines become smoother. Coleman noted that the work required by the FAA to assess this anomaly accounts for about a third of their efforts, which aligns well with the timeline Elon Musk has set for the next Starship flight in mid-March. But as I mentioned earlier, the shortened environmental investigation timelines are mostly due to SpaceX's innovation and development. To meet the goal of up to 9 Starship launches in 2024, the FAA itself must ramp up its workforce. This was underscored in a congressional hearing last October, where SpaceX's Vice President for Build and Flight Reliability, Bill Gerstenmaier, expressed his desire for both the House and Senate to provide additional resources to the FAA for its licensing review process. The number of launches in the United States has increased from a few dozen per year to over 100, with numerous new companies seeking regulatory approval for spaceflight operations. The agency is expected to issue a license for over 150 launches and reentries this year alone. Their workload is substantial, and they may struggle to keep up without sufficient resources equipped with the necessary skills and expertise. One example SpaceX cited of FAA's delays causing work disruptions was last year when the company's Falcon 9 launches from Vandenberg Space Force Base sometimes fly over Jalama Beach, which is due south of the spaceport in California. SpaceX has been performing calculations based on flight path and breakup analysis to determine whether the beach needs to be closed. But because this work would compete directly with the FAA's Starship analysis, it's put the Jalama Beach review on hold and attempted to find nighttime launch windows when the beach would be empty.